Hi, I'm Michael Carden. I'm the CEO and founder of SmartAsset. Welcome to our Advisor Success Series. I'm pleased to be joined by Joe Anderson, the CEO and President of Pure Financial. Joe, welcome to the program here. Glad to have you. Love to hear a little bit about you and your firm.
Michael, thank you so much for having me. This is a real pleasure. Pure Financial Advisors, President and CEO. We started the firm in 2007. We're a West Coast-based wealth management firm, really, that specializes in deep financial planning, investment management, but I think with a real core with client education. You know, we started the firm in 2007, really brought in our first client in 2008. Today, we manage roughly $6 billion. And I have to say a lot of thanks to you, Michael. 1 billion, a little bit more than $1 billion of that 6 billion is from SmartAsset. So I'm super excited to talk about the journey in regards to marketing, business development activities, and everything in between. Because really the goal of Pure Financial Advisors when we started the firm was twofold. One is that we really wanted to build a strong back office. We wanted to support the certified financial planner. So we wanted to have robust tax and financial planning services, investment management team that's really dealing with the portfolios, a strong back office in regards to operations and compliance. But I think what makes us a little bit unique is that we also wanted to build a very strong front office. I've been in this business at the late 1990s, and I see a lot of really good advisors come and go, but I think a lot of good advisors leave because they don't necessarily know how to market, or they don't know a sales process, or they can't convert a client or even get a client in front of them. So we wanted to build a very strong, robust front office as well. So from a marketing perspective, we wanted to handle all of the biz dev and marketing activities for the firm and basically have preset appointments for our advisors so they could do what they do best, is really give great advice to those end clients.
What's exceptional, Joe? $1 billion raised through SmartAsset. Clearly you guys are doing something right, and we really appreciate you taking the time to talk through some of those processes that are working for you. And I think these are lessons that can work whether you're using SmartAsset or you're sourcing leads from elsewhere. It's just about building a good process to have that initial meeting and to take them through to close. So maybe you can start by just telling us a little more about what does the ideal client look like for Pure Financial?
Yeah, the mission and vision of Pure Financial Advisors was to give robust, comprehensive financial planning to the mass affluent. We started the firm, like I said, in 2007 as a fee-only registered investment advisor. And I think back in 2007 and 8, the firms that were RIA really catered to the high net worth or ultra high net worth, which is fantastic. But for us, we felt that we could give more comprehensive financial planning advice at scale to the mass affluent because we feel that unfortunately, a lot of those individuals, they need every last dollar to make sure that they can accomplish their goals. So that's what we specialize in. Our ideal client is someone that is transitioning into retirement, that is looking for help to create retirement income, preserve their capital, pass it on to the next generation. I think similar goals to a lot of other advisors, but what our main focus is give that comprehensive strategy, at scale.
That makes a lot of sense. And in terms of finding that client, I think you work across a number of different marketing channels. Maybe you can share just the different channels that you currently operate in, and where have you seen success and where have you seen challenges?
Yeah, I think because of how I got into the business, this business is hard, right? I got in right out of college. I'm 20 some odd years old, and they're like, okay, well, you're a financial advisor now, so go find clients. So you get your list of 100 names and you're calling your friends and family. My dad was my first client. He gave me $10,000 that I put in, Putnam New Opportunities that blew up a couple years later. Right. So you kind of get accustomed to see every lead is gold because the business is hard. You got to generate the lead and then you got to set the lead. So you're calling all these people to try to set appointments. And then from there, they got to show up. And it's like, okay, great. They showed up. Now what? And then you got to bring them through a sales process. And hopefully you can motivate the client to take action and actually hire you to be their advisor long term. And so in the beginning, I've done everything and anything. from the list of friends and family to setting up fish bowls in restaurants to have them put cards in and I'll buy them lunch or dinner and then present, my services to them, to doing focus groups, dinner workshops, you name it, sitting in lunchrooms at the schools, kindergarten rooms, trying to sell 403Bs, just to see if I could build and grow a business, right? And so over the years, I've tried to create a little bit better strategy. And so if you think about constructing an overall portfolio for your investment clients, we did the same with our marketing strategy. So you have stocks, bonds, cash, alternatives. So we have four similar silos if you look at a marketing portfolio. For instance, client education is really key for us. So we have a client education silo. So we do workshops, we do adult education long form that we actually charge clients to go to. We do a lot of webinars, white papers, blogs, you name it. We try to throw the content out there to educate the client. We feel that an educated client is a lot better client. The second silo that we have is our media channel. So we started the firm on AM radio, right? So the AM radio Saturday morning talk show. So we still have that. That morphed into a TV show, then that morphed into a podcast. And so we do still a lot of education in regards to white papers, special offers in regards to that channel. Recently, because of COVID, you can't necessarily really go out and teach the public, that's where we built out our digital platform, or silo, if you will. So then that's when we partner up with great firms like you, Mike, SmartAsset, or we're driving leads to our website just from a digital channel. And then finally, it's referrals, right? Referrals, COIs, and things like that. So, if you look at our portfolio, we run hundreds of different campaigns, and we feel that marketing is like 2 + 2 should equal 6. Because let's say I purchase a lead from SmartAsset. And then from there in our drip campaign, we might throw in, hey, listen to the podcast, or we might give them a white paper, or they go to a class and then they come and download something on our website. So we're constantly trying to touch these people. So the more robust portfolio we have, I think the stronger the close ratios that we have at motivating the client to take action.
That makes a lot of sense. And again, $1 billion in organic growth through smart asset, you have to have a machine to make that work. Maybe we can just dive into the details. How did you set up your partnership with us? Why do you think it's been so successful?
Yeah, I think generating the lead is one thing, but converting it to a long-term client is something different. So you need to have people in different chairs, I think, throughout the journey. So with purchasing a lead or getting a lead or referral from SmartAsset. So what that does is that goes into a totally separate department. It's our biz devs inside sales team. So we have a team of around 9 people that are on that team. What their job is to make the phone calls, the text messages, the emails, the follow-up, the nurturing, and everything else in between to make sure that we can capture that overall prospect into our sales funnel, if you will. I found out a long time ago, I didn't necessarily want advisors making those types of calls. They're going to call them once or they're going to call them 3 times and they're say, Joe, this lead is no good, right? But if I have a separate team that I'm paying specifically to motivate that client to have an appointment with our certified financial planner, you're going to receive a lot better results. Because you have to have a sequence. You have to have a set system. So every single lead that goes through into our system or process, we have like a 20-point checklist. So they're going to receive a text message, then a phone call, and then next day an email, and blah, 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 blah. So it's going to walk them all the way through. And then we're going to drip on them. And then we're going to hit them again. So every lead, it just goes back to when I started in the business, that every lead was gold. So if you treat every lead as gold, you're going to see a lot better conversion. And that's the culture that we have. We're a high growth firm. We want to continue to grow. And growth is great for the firm, but I think a lot of our advisors have the mantra that we want to help the client. We want to give fiduciary CFP advice to the mass affluent. Let's see as many people as we possibly can to help those people. And if you have that type of culture, it's a lot easier too, because you have to see a ton of meetings to grow at scale.
Yeah, and I'll just say that you're not just high growth, you're high retention, which is also adding to the growth, which means you're serving a great product to our referrals and to your clients, and we really appreciate you taking care of the consumers that we refer over to you. If you don't mind, would you go through just the metrics? You talked about having a dedicated business development team and getting that first meeting, getting the consumer on the phone and getting that first meeting, and then getting the second or third meeting. Can you tell us a little bit about kind of what's the sequence that you like to take a prospect through, and what are the metrics? What are the conversion metrics you're trying to get to?
Yeah, great question. So our advisors are responsible for bringing a prospect through three processes. So up front is that a lead is generated from whatever source. That lead drives through our business development team. They're going to call and nurture that lead and set that appointment, and hopefully they show up. And so then the advisor's job is to bring them through three processes. The first one is an assessment. It's free. It's 2 meetings. So what I found too is that if you get a referral from a really good client, your closing ratio is 70, 80%. But if you get a lead from someone that calls a radio show or a TV show or a smart asset, your closing ratios are going to be a little bit different because they don't know you. Right. So you have to show value very quickly, and you have to show that you're competent, that you care in a very quick manner. So we have a 2 meeting process, but that first meeting is really the nuts and bolts of it. We want to get as much information from the client as possible, but it's hard information. I want to know what they're doing with their money, how much money that they have, what does their real estate look like, IRAs, Roth IRAs, non-qualified accounts, what is their strategies? And then we can ask really good questions. Have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? Blah, 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 blah. And from there, we say, hey, let me clean some of this up and let's have another meeting. Let me show you the ideas and strategies that we have for you that you should be thinking about. So the goal for the advisor is really to educate the client on everything that they should be doing. So it's not like, here, hire me because Peer Financial Advisors is really great. We have a $6 billion firm or things like that. It's like, Michael, here, have you thought of this tax implication of your retirement account? Or you sold XYZ stock, or you have a highly concentrated position here. Have you thought about this, or you thought about that? So it's just giving the client more information to be thinking about that they could either implement on their own, or they could hire an advisor. If they hire us, that's fantastic, or they can go back to their existing advisor, or they can hire another advisor. Our goal for that first assessment meeting is to really give high touch, high value really quickly to show that, hey, we're more competent maybe than, we should be more competent than them, right? Or else they shouldn't hire the advisor. So our goal is, hey, have you thought about these different things? So that's the first step of the process. They hire us for planning. So we charge financial planning fees up front because we're truly a financial planning firm first, and then we manage their client assets afterwards. So then we'll bring them through a financial planning process. So this could be 1 to 3 meetings where we're going to take a really deep dive and give them written recommendations. We'll give them the roadmap. We'll give them the blueprint. Here's everything that you need to do, how you got to do it, and why you should be doing it. The assessment is more or less high level. Have you thought of these things? And then the second process is more getting really into the weeds to give them all the nuts and bolts for them to implement on their own or to implement with us. A lot of times they're like, this is great. I understand what I should be doing now. Let's go ahead and implement. It sounds like we're on the same page. And then we go ahead and implement the process. And then the job for the advisor ongoing is to retain that relationship and service the client ongoing. So those are our 3 steps that we use to onboard a client. So our sales process is a little bit longer than most, I think, because we're not in there in that first meeting trying to pitch investment management or a product or our services in that meeting. We try to get as much information as we possibly can and give them the value in the different areas of financial planning. Their cash flow needs, their retirement income needs, taxes, investments, estate planning, risk management. We want to go through a laundry list of ideas. And then from there, they're like, wow, this is a lot more information than I thought. And then we can bring them through.
That makes a lot of sense. And maybe you can talk a little bit about just if you got 100 leads, how many are you getting to that first or second meeting, and then how many are you expecting once you get in front of them? How many are you expecting to close?
Right. Well, so we're setting 20% of the leads roughly. So if they're in our metro areas in San Diego, so we have 9 different offices now. So we're in Southern California, we're in Seattle, Portland, Denver, and Chicago. So if we have leads in those metro areas where we have physical advisors, we're sending 20% of the lead. From there, around 65% of the leads are going to show up. And then from there, we're going to close roughly 25% of those people long term. So, you can revert it back. it's about 3.5% on the lead is becoming a long-term client if you want to run the numbers that way. If you want to look at cost per AUM, so if I spend $1 million with Smart Asset, I know what the ratios over the years is that I'll bring in $100 million of assets. So we're spending about $10,000 for cost per acquisition per $1 million. And I'll do that all day long because the long-term value of the client is a lot more than that. But it's an investment up front, right? So short term, you're going broke, but long term, you're going to be very profitable.
Joe, I think you said you spent 1 million to raise 100 million in new assets. So what does that equate to in terms of the billion that you've raised so far with Smart Asset?
Well, I mean, the ratio is fairly simple with us is that if I spend $1 million, I know that I will bring in $100 million of assets. It's actually a little bit more than that. Just from a compliance perspective, I want to keep the math super simple. So if I spend 2 million, it's 200 million. So to get a billion, is it 10? Right? It's less than that, but you get the gist.
Can you tell us a little bit about what your fee structure is like, and what does that work out to in terms of a dollar invested to a dollar revenue?
Yeah, I mean, our fee structure is 1% roughly, right? So if they have, we're probably a little bit lower on the spectrum for higher net worth clients. We're probably a little bit higher on the spectrum for lower tier clients just because of the robust planning that we do. So on average, our client has $1 million with us. On average, our fee is around 1%, maybe a little bit more than that, 1.1, call it. So if I have $1 million client, call it $10,000 of revenue. And so I'm paying $10,000 to get that $1 million of AUM.
And I know you're in a number of different marketing channels. Are you using the same system, the same process across all the channels, including Smart Asset?
Yes. Yeah. Because here's why is I have 40 advisors and I need to understand the ratios. Let's say if I have a first meeting and that first meeting doesn't convert to a second meeting for whatever reason, they cancel, they fall out, they don't want to come back to get really good free information. So then I know that I have to work with that advisor to say, well, what is their skill sets to make sure that they can hold that second meeting? Then from the second meeting to a planning client, then planning client to AUM client to retention. So I want to follow that same process just so that the client is going to feel the same experience no matter what office or no matter what advisor that they go to. Of course, the advisor is going to put their own personality and their spin on it, and they're going to have their own autonomy to give the great advice that they're really good at doing. But from a process and system standpoint, is that they have so much support behind them. So we have a full planning team of certified financial planners. We have a tax team of JDs and CPAs. We have an investment management team and so on. So it's like an assembly line that this client or prospect is going through. So the other team members know when they have to step in. So the process is the same, but of course the personalities are going to be a little bit different. But from a training perspective, we need that because if I'm hiring advisors, these are not referrals that they're going to close 70%. So there has to be a little bit better skill set to be able to convert them.
Joe, what advice would you give to an advisor who's just getting started, solo practitioner, wants to build their business, but doesn't have all of these capabilities? How should they go and get started?
You got to start somewhere. A couple of things is that, the best professional golfers, they have a very short memory, right? Because they have bad shots and then it's like, I got to hit another good shot. So you're going to get a ton of rejection. That's just part of the game, right? And just enjoy it and make it a game. So you have to have a short memory and you have to have a lot of passion for this business, right? And I think a lot of people that get into this business do have that passion to help people. So if you have the passion and you have short memories, I think you're going to be all right. However, you have to start somewhere. So if you start with $1,000 budget a month or a $500 budget a month, I think that is way better than zero. If you get a goose egg at your first month, don't worry about it. Continue to do this because the numbers will play out. And then you start getting some traction, and then you can invest more in your business. But if you're not investing in your business will die, right? And so, like I said, it took us a while to get to see the black, if you will, because we were so committed on the front end to make sure that, we felt that there was a lot of really good prospects and clients that needed help. But we wanted to make sure that we did that as a firm to help our advisors. Because advisors are really good advisors, not necessarily great marketers. And if they're really good marketers and rainmakers, well, they probably don't need services like this anyway, right? They're in the country club and they're closing the $20 million deals. But I think for the average advisor like myself, this is a gold mine because it's like if I open up an office in Chicago, right, it takes me a while to get an AM radio show on. And I'm probably not going to do that because AM's dead. Let's face it. The podcast is really driving a lot more than I ever thought. Then you get the TV show. Then we're going to do classes and things like that. Some of that stuff takes a little bit of time to get robust and up and running. But if I go to Chicago, if I want to start leads and I want to get them tomorrow, I'm going to call Luke. I'm going to call Michael and say, hey, I need leads tomorrow. Boom, they're in my inbox and I'm off and running. So as a quick start, this is perfect because instead of like going to the Rotary meeting, are you kidding me? That is awful. Hey, how are you doing? Networking and this and that. Some people love that. I hated it. Man, I'm here in San Diego. We had the Farmers Insurance and a mortgage broker invited me to go to the 18th box. So I sat there for like 15 minutes and I had to get out because it was just a network. Oh, hey, can I get your... I'm like, no, that's not for me. I'd much rather call Michael, get 1,000 leads in my mailbox and then hit the phones and I'm off and running.
Great advice. And I guess similarly, if you had an advisor who had good lead flow but just wasn't seeing the conversion, what would you tell them? What would you how would you help them troubleshoot their process?
Yeah, I would want to examine the process first. How are you doing this? Are you doing it similar every single time? Because what I find is that no one has a clear sales process, right? We're tracking talk tos, how many dials it takes to talk to someone. And then from there, how many emails does it take for a response? And then from how many talk tos are we getting to set an appointment? And what is that percentage? And then from the percentage that we're talking to, right, how many of them are actually showing up, setting an appointment versus not? And then so we're tracking everything within the process. And if you can track that, then you can improve.
And we know that when it comes to valuing a firm, organic growth rates are one of the biggest predictors of the value of that firm. How does organic growth impact how you're thinking about the future of your business?
The goal of our firm in the beginning was, all right, we had a core group of certified financial planners that came from the commission side of the business that wanted to basically say, hey, I don't ever want to sell another product for the rest of my life, and all I want to focus on is helping people with their financial lives. And so we kind of nerded out. There was a group and just like, I don't care if they have 50,000 or 50 million, we want to help people. So that was the goal. And then as the business continued to build, right, we started from scratch, zero assets, zero clients. 2008, we built our first client. And then it was like we had 2 advisors. And then I kept hiring an advisor. And then I would fill them up, hired another advisor. You fill them up with 100, 150 clients. And we kind of did that. And the goal is really today is to get an advisor from 0 to, let's say, 100 clients, $100 million, under 3 years. And then we want to try to get them to 200 million under 5. Right? So some of this is stretch goals depending on the skill set of the advisor, but that's always been the mantra, is I help as many people as we possibly can.
What does the future look like for Pure? How are you thinking about more geographic expansion? Is it growing in your existing geos?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as there's really good certified financial planners out there that want a great career track, and that there's individuals out there that need a financial planner, we want to continue to build and grow it. We're in 9 locations today. We started here in San Diego, and we slowly kind of built this thing out. But yeah, we have big plans. We're on the West Coast. We want to continue to expand in the West Coast. And then from there, hopefully have a national platform at some point. But we're having a lot of fun. Right? We're having a lot of fun helping a lot of people. And I think people try to make this business a little bit too complicated. I'm a really simple person. I like to keep things super simple. So it's like, hey, it's marketing, it's sales, and it's service. Right? You have to market. You have to get yourself out there. I get it. It's a professional business. It's serious business. We're helping people with their financial lives. But on the flip side, it's marketing. You got to see people to make sure that you can help them. And then from there, you got to motivate the client to take action. And then finally, you have to take care of that client long term. If I could keep it as simple as possible, I think we could grow this thing, to who knows.
Awesome. Well, Joe, thank you so much for your partnership. Congratulations on all the success. You're clearly doing a lot of things extremely well. And the thing we appreciate is that you're providing a great experience to our referrals. So thank you very much, Joe.